Bibliosophie.
Margaret's fear of judgment for starting a relationship with a much younger man.
Good morning, we're spending a little bathroom floor time. I'm teaching in 15 minutes and I thought I would put on a little makeup, look cute, look fresh, put together, but putting on mascara was too physically taxing. So I just had to sit down for a little bit. We're gonna ride this out, it'll pass, it'll be fine. Maybe I'll try again, maybe I won't. Hey, I worked a few hours. I feel very successful. And I also look a little like a pirate in my opinion, and I'm gonna go to a follow-up doctor's appointment.
And had to.
Day 11 was actually a Beckett I had already read, and then also I gave it away to somebody earlier today.
Mass and intense color practice hydrotherapy here.
Good morning. I am extraordinarily behind on some teaching admin work, like extraordinarily behind, like I cannot blame it on cancer. So now I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna do that work. Yes, I am a champion. My grandmother knit me this little hood many years ago, and I'm so happy to have fished it out. All right, it is a reading update time. First up, the shorties. I don't have that many props to show you. I did end up finally reading the Katherine Mansfield stories. There are 3 in here. All 3 of them are from The Garden Party. And this was a success story, excuse me. I do want to read more Katherine Mansfield, and this was a good introduction to her. I want to read that particular volume of short stories. These are both charming and kind of deeply melancholy, which is quite a concoction to read. I read on Monday Lance by Vladimir Nabokov, Lance and 2 other stories, The Aurelian and what's the last? Signs and Symbols, which is really, really short. This was fine. This was a fine enough collection. I like Nabokov's writing. I didn't really latch on to these. It could be me. And in general, in all of this endeavor, I am having a hard time still. Just as a human being, I have a hard time latching onto short stories now. And it's, I think, all the harder currently. My body is so radically different from day to day, and I think short form fiction is just difficult. It depends who you are. I can imagine some people finding it easier to latch on to short form fiction when they have erratic attention spans, but for me, actually it's easier to delve in deeper. If it's nonfiction, an essay, that's great, that's fine. A poem also, but it's kind of what you're used to, and so short fiction, short plot is really difficult for me to get into, and this was definitely the case with these. I liked the first story the most in this collection, which is The Aurelian, which is about a frustrated lepidopterist in Berlin. Of course it is, because it's Nabokov. I then read The Steel Flea by Nikolay Leskov, which was nice actually because it was just one story that was like 50-60 pages. And I had never read any Leskov before and was curious to read him. It was funny. It was a delightful and also terrible, sad. But it was a very delightful kind of folky story of one-upsmanship that I quite enjoyed. Yeah, Russian and English one-upsmanship and abandoning your citizens, essentially. Then Beckett, as I mentioned, The End, and it's 2 stories, which I read in February. So this is the one time that I've messed up in so far in my little packages. I don't know why I picked it as one of the books to package for December last month, because I knew I had read it, But anyway, so it gave me a break from the shorty reading, I guess it was yesterday, and today is Dante, a few of the cantos from Hell and the Inferno, I guess, and I have read the Inferno before, some of it in Italian, in fact, but at some point, I think I will read this today. I will look forward to revisiting some of this. I think this will be a nice read. All right, those are the shorties. Eek. On to actually other things that I've had a hard time concentrating on. Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. I mentioned this in my previous vlog. I'm going to stop reading it for now. I will probably get back to it. I've read the first 2 sections. If you've read this, you know that it's in 3 major sections that are connected to one another because they're all having to do with Area X and at various kind of points in its history. But they predominantly focus on different chunks of the timeline. And this has been unnecessarily a slog for me. Unnecessarily because I think it is good and I have liked Jeff Vandermeer's world before, and so it shouldn't be this hard for me to enjoy this book. So I'm setting it aside. I especially don't really want to read the 3rd section, which again, if you have read this book, you know is probably has the potential to be the sloggish-ist. So it's just not gonna happen right now, and maybe in the new year, maybe I'll never read it. Who can say? It doesn't seem necessary to do this to myself. Guess what I did finally fucking finish? An apprenticeship. I started this book at the very beginning of September. I vlogged about it. I had great plans to write about it for my book club Substack. I was already late on reading it for various life reasons. And then I fell off the face of the earth. And then I also had a lot of baggage about needing to read it and needing to write about it. And so I did not read it and I did not write about it. But last night I finished the French. I have also been reading the English simultaneously. I think I didn't log it until yesterday, that I was also dipping in and out of the English. So I've read it cover to cover in both languages as of this morning. Actually, I needed to go over a couple of sections that I lied, in the English. And it was wonderful in the past few days to really read this in chunks. I will write about it, probably not immediately. I still have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about needing to write about it, but I will write about it. It was a great pleasure to finish another Lispector. I'm glad I read it in French first. And yeah, I mean, look, it's me and it's Lispector. I feel like I have accomplished something, even though it's so short, to tick off this particular book that has been on my currently reading for far too long. So at some point I will write more about it. I have listened to the audiobook of I Died at Fallow Hall by Bonnie Burke-Patel. I found out about this book thanks to Bob the Booker. He was talking about it in a recent video about indie presses, and it kind of caught my interest. This is very much just a murder mystery in many ways, but it's smartly done. This is not my favorite book by any stretch. It is very tropey, but it is well done. It is well written. The characters are good. It's an interesting take on dual narrative. It's a cold case. It has very much to do with what we owe one another, with what we owe legacy, and the past and the future, identity, connections between people. And then it's also, you know, a murder mystery. So the ways in which it was not absolutely fascinating to me are the ways in which it just does its job as a genre book. I cannot hold that against it, and it does its genre work, I think, very well. I haven't read a mystery book in quite a while. So if you're into mysteries, I recommend it to you. The audiobook is actually very good too. So that has been a good companion to my ears in the past few days. And most recently, I started the audiobook of The Empusium by Olga Tokarczuk, translated into English by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. I have been very curious about this book and also very afraid to read it because Tokarczuk is intense. I mean, her worlds are really intense, and I was afraid to read a horror mystery or horror novel. I forgot how exactly it's described, in a sanatorium. I'm dealing with my own health issues. However, it has been a delight. I've really been enjoying it, and it's not overwhelming. I mean, it's not, you know, it has its overwhelming bits. This is not like a picture book, but it's her response to The Magic Mountain, which I read last summer, so not 6 months ago, but a year and a half ago for the first time, and enjoyed a lot, but also was sometimes exasperated with, which I think is fitting. And this has been a very interesting, fun, and kind of cathartic experience for me to see her response to The Magic Mountain, which lines up a lot with my response. So there's a lot of kind of eye rolling in Tokarczuk's plot and even just writing that I think, at least I'm reading some eye rolling into it, that matches my own eye rolling about the sort of philosophical, you know, middle-aged white man at the edge of the First World War, commentating on what is culture and what is society and the effects of, you know, the long 19th century, essentially. That's one of the things that's so interesting about The Magic Mountain, but it's also funny. And already Mann was commentating on all of those different philosophical ideals melding and the limitations of being overly strictly one way. So it's already inherent in the Mann to consider these characters rather, if not ridiculous, I think in some cases actually ridiculous, but at the very least naive and limited. And so 100 years later, we have another layer of commentary, and commentary that includes the fact that women exist, essentially, and are human beings. So that's it's been a very good experience. Yeah, that's the reading update.
Yeah, TV, yeah. He strides up the table. So absolutely, you should send a photograph to him.
Hello again. I have not been keeping up with my tinies the past couple of days. I did not read Dante yesterday. I still have not read today's offering. That's fine. To be honest, I just didn't do that much reading yesterday because I felt physically really good and I got some work done, and that felt wonderful, I must say. The sun is definitely helping. I'm thriving. I am a happy plant. I'm still in the process of listening to the Tokarczuk and still really enjoying it. I'm glad I picked it up. I should not have been afraid of it. In addition to following the basic blueprint of Thomas Mann, basically the same story in exactly the same setting, in fact, I'm liking the addition of the mystical, the magical, the superstitious, which feels right in Tokarczuk's kind of bag. So she's adding a layer of witchiness and horror, partially in the contemplation of female characters who either are in the book or who are mentioned, who are in the past of the characters, or who are just talked about conceptually. But there is very much, as part of the discussion of, you know, modernist debates, the concept of science versus religion versus superstition, and how those kind of get embroiled together, and that adds a layer of creepiness. Nature is an important component of the Man as well. The nature as part of the relationship to the characters and time changing, because so much of the Man is about existence in time, but this is kind of a different take on a relationship to the surroundings, the surroundings of the sanatorium for the characters. So that's been a delight. I started also American Bulk by Emily Mester. This was a CJ Reads recommendation from a recent video of hers, and I got interested. This is a series of essays, personal essays so far, I think probably all of them. And it's well written. It's a very fast read, very compelling. So I think I'll probably get through this quickly. I want to read for you the first 2 sentences of the second essay called Wholesale. To walk around Costco as a childless, unattached person is to experience the fragility of your existence. To perk up at the reasonably priced Angus steaks only to realize they are not sold in quantities fewer than 8 and think, well, I guess if I ate 1 steak a day for a week plus an extra on Sunday is to realize the promise of decay. And so this is very much so far about her and her family's interaction with American stuff, American excess, the Americanness of stuff and excess, and how that kind of gets encoded into their DNA. So yeah, that's the update. Again, I'm gonna use this lovely energy that I have to practice. What a novel concept.
That has a weight, that has a shape. You keep the memory that it used to be a puddle.
Кажется, со мной что-то не так, Лайнус.
Off of the internet.
Woman running in the
It almost feels foreign.
Currently filming you.
Okay. Hi.
You don't have to do anything, but
Yeah.
hello.
Hello.
First encounter in the flesh.
In the flesh. Having a lovely tea.
It's Sunday night, barely. I am gonna give you one last update and wrap up the vlog on the Tinies front. I am getting increasingly behind. I have not been keeping up with the Tinies, so be it. So there are now 3 books this week that I have not yet read. I never did get to Dante. Yesterday was Oscar Wilde, Lord Arthur Savile's Crime, which I think I will read at some point, but I have not yet. Today was Daphne du Maurier, The Breakthrough, which I also think I will read at some point, maybe tonight, but have not yet. Both of these are just 1 story per book, which I generally prefer. And I've never read any Daphne du Maurier, so this is a good way to kind of have a taste of her. I did read Yūko Tsushima a couple of days ago, and this was a wonderful way to get to know her, and very much the type of success story of having just a tiny little segment of somebody's work to explore them a little bit, because I don't think I would have picked her up otherwise. And of the 2 stories, I really loved one of them. Not Of Dogs and Walls, which gives the title to the little duo of stories. I like that one fine. It has to do with family relationships and isolation, ostracism, but especially through the lens of kind of childhood memory. But the first story in the collection, The Watery Realm, was beautiful. A kind of surprising indent within story kind of situation that kind of caught me by surprise, that also deals very much with memory, generational memory, parent-child relationship, perception of those relationships, also isolation. There's a common thread between the two, but this was a lovely surprise. This morning, I finished American Bulk, and yeah, I really liked this collection. So thank you, CJ Reads, for talking about it. I'm really, really glad I picked it up. This was great. I loved Mester's writing style, which was very conversational, but just good, well done. As I mentioned, personal essays all on consumerism, her particular relationship to consumerism, and her family's relationship to it, her relationship to her family. I have never felt so un-American in so many ways. It's really funny. I think of myself as very Americanized in so many ways, and yet there are just some aspects of my upbringing that don't line up, and of course there are so many different American experiences, but yeah, I felt foreign in various ways while reading this book, which is always, it's funny to be reminded of my foreignness sometimes. I'm not done still with Tokarczuk. I will probably finish in the next few days. I don't have much left. I do find it difficult sometimes to go back into that world. I'm getting annoyed with her characters once again, which was the problem for me with Driver Plow, which is also a book that I enjoyed reading, or am glad that I read, but also kind of didn't enjoy reading in some ways. So I have to step away from her world, her characters. I think it's a good asset of what she writes that I am annoyed with her characters, but I am annoyed with her characters, and sometimes I just don't want to hang out with them. That's it. I hope you have a good week. I'm going to post this on a Monday morning, so voila. I wish you a very good week ahead. Thank you for watching, and catch you in the next video, which I suspect might be my favorite books of 2024 video. I have to sit down to record that at some point. Wish me luck. Bisous, bisous.